The following program is presented by the Metropolitan Library Service Agency.
Hello, welcome to All About Kids, a program focusing on the interests of children and young people and some of the issues affecting them. Today we'll be talking about whole language as it relates to the teaching of reading and creative writing. Our guests, school librarian Mary Margaret Montandon and 5th grade teacher Julie Hussey, are here from the Immaculate Heart of Mary School in Minnetonka. They'll be describing the school's innovative program. Later on in the program, we'll hear from some of the 5th grade students at Immaculate Heart of Mary. They've prepared some special projects to describe. Mary Margaret and Julie, it's a pleasure to have you and those wonderful 5th graders with us today. Before we hear from the students, let's talk a little bit about your reading and language and literature programs at Immaculate Heart of Mary. Mary Margaret, you're the school librarian, and it's nice to hear you use that word. You're proud of being a librarian.
Right. We have a small library, but it's fun, and it's wonderful that we can put the books with our reading program.
So you work very closely then with the classroom teachers like
Right.
Julie to develop the reading program.
Right, because we want to do as many books as we possibly can with our series.
I'm always in the library asking her for new books that I can use in the classroom, so she really is a help to me.
What reading series do you use?
Hoot and Mifflin.
And so that's almost a whole language program, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Could you describe a little bit about how reading is being taught differently now than it was when we were growing up, for instance?
Well, right now, Hoot and Mifflin is a literature-based program, and we are, books that we use are kind of divided up into themes. For instance, one of the themes that we read this year was on perseverance. So all of the stories went along with this theme, and then it culminated with a book at the end that we read that wasn't in our reader. Then we add a lot of other books through Mary Margaret that kind of go along. She knows that we're working on perseverance, so I'm asking her for books that would go along with that. And so Mary Margaret is a big help to me in that area.
Well, I was interested our viewers will get a chance to see some of the work the students have done a little bit later in the program, but they've obviously given a lot of thought to what they're doing. They're able to read a book and transfer the concept from the book into their own words and come up with their own poem or their own simile. And I was very impressed because it looks like it's lots of fun, but yet they're learning a lot about structure and grammar and
And they really enjoy the creative part of it. In fact, we're doing something a little different this year in 5th grade. We started about Christmas time. Each student has a writing journal. We try to write in our journal approximately 3 times a week, if not more. Sometimes it's just whatever they want to write because this is their journal. But other times we have little story starters. In fact, I use the kids' book of questions quite a bit. I pick and choose which ones work well, and those are very open-ended questions that they can really express in writing their feelings for those questions.
And are the journals private? You don't
Yes,
grade
well,
them?
I don't grade them at all. However, I do ask them to turn them in. Oh, I think I've collected them twice since Christmas. All I do is read them. That's it. It's their own thing, but I just like to make sure that they are writing. So and it's interesting for me. I've learned a lot about the students through their writing. And so they know it's whatever they write will be read by me.
Which probably makes them not careful necessarily about the subject or the topic, but more careful about how they're able to express themselves.
Right, right.
So the whole integration of writing skills and critical thinking skills along with learning to read in kind of a fun atmosphere. The illustrations for their poems and similes were wonderful. Lots and lots of creativity.
They love to draw, yes.
Do you see a change, Mary Margaret, in the way children respond to learning how to read because of the way it's being taught now?
Oh, yes. I just think it's wonderful that we can use just regular trade books, and to see any age from K through 6, which is at our school, using the picture books in all areas, whether it's in social studies or science or reading or math. We have, do it in the math too. I just think it's neat that they're not so isolated. Our skills, like we used to do or whatever, like just
reading was separate,
reading and
math
then math,
separate,
and then well, we do have like reading and math, but then like our reading is just a whole like an hour and a half of the English, the spelling, the writing, and it's all done together and not just isolated, just with phonics or just with this, and process writing. So we hit all of it in the one area.
I was interested that the students enjoyed using books that in the old days a fifth grader might have said, this is a baby book and I won't use that, but obviously students enjoy books at different levels at different times in their lives, and the students who wrote the terse verse had certainly an enjoyment and appreciation of the language that a younger child who might also enjoy the book at a different level wouldn't have had.
Right.
They really liked that book, and they loved creating their own. We started by doing journal pages. In our journal, we just wrote all kinds of terse verse sentences, and then they went and chose one that they really liked and illustrated it for the book. But some kids had a whole journal page full of terse verse.
It's kind of addictive once you get going.
Right.
Since the viewers haven't seen the children's terse verse, why don't you give us an example just now?
Okay, an example of terse verse would be like tall mall or fat cat. It's made up of two words that are one-syllable words that make sense. They had to be able to illustrate
And that's
the idea.
Things that make sense. So
Our first grade did it after they saw the fifth grade book.
And there's something very exciting about the process of writing a book, a classroom project, writing and illustrating. So they're having enormous in-depth development of schools. Have the parents been pleased at the way this is going?
Right, yes. We also took the book On the Day You Were Born, Deborah Fraser's book, and did it as a whole school, as far as I had shared it with all the classes, and then our school went to the play, and then we did some projects after that.
So it's extending and enhancing a one-time reading of a book, so children really start thinking much more about the illustration, the text, the whole content of the book. You two are children's literature, children's books groupies, aren't you? You take classes, you go and hear authors, and you're interested in having authors come to the school and talking to the children. How do you work with students before an author visits the classroom?
Well, like tomorrow we're going to be having Karen Ritz, the illustrator, and she will be in the school all day, and so we've scheduled the classes to be with her in Fellowship Hall. Other times we have had authors, and they will go to the individual rooms and work with the children, whatever they would, want to do. But I share the books with the children that they have done, so they know beforehand what the author or the illustrator has done.
Well, I remember one time too, last year we had an author come, and Mary Margaret had, I think it was a book about loons, and she was an illustrator, and the whole school made their own beautiful drawings of loons, and we hung them all around the school before the author came.
So as the author arrived here,
Yes.
was this
It was
dramatic?
Barbara Espenson,
Oh,
yes.
yes.
So,
And then we had a new author, Marcia Chall, come in February, and I think Julie did after the students saw her presentation. When we came back to the room, Julie had them just sit down in the journal and write what it meant to them or what they enjoyed and whatever. So they do writing again.
well, one thing that the author talked about, she came on a day when it had snowed, and the trees, everything was just covered with white, and it was beautiful. And she was talking about how she was, driving to school that day and wondering what words she could use to describe this scene outside. And she used things like cotton and cotton candy to illustrate this day. And so we went back to our journal, and everybody wrote their own ideas of what outdoors was to them. And it was wonderful.
It sounds fantastic. And does it seem to you that students who may not have been very interested in writing or may have thought that they wouldn't be very good writers are learning?
I think
We
so.
see so much creativity in everybody in a different way, whether it's in the reading or the writing or oral presentation, just whatever.
And this is a whole school from kindergarten through
Sixth grade.
So everyone is doing this at a different level.
Right.
Budding authors, illustrators, poets out there. Do you do anything as a whole school to focus on some of the things the students have done during the year? Any kind of a reading, writing, illustrating festival, or is there anything that involves parents? And
I guess the art,
We've had the art
Masterpiece Fair is the one thing that we do in the spring. And that's usually really just art-centered, not writing as much as art.
so all the illustrations from these books will go on. What are some of the plans for the future? Are you going to continue with the terse verse, or are you going to develop another
We'll just
interesting
probably
side
find
line?
another new book and try something new.
We'll probably take your class on notable books again, and that's how we
Right.
get all our good ideas.
Right.
It's always fun to talk about children's books with other fanatics
yeah.
about it.
One thing we plan on doing with the terse verse book, and I bet we'll see more of this in our school, is that we are going to give that to the library, and so that the kids in the whole school can come through and read it. And I think we started that about 2 months ago. I think other classes are going to do the same thing, so that'll be something new that we haven't
would be an
seen.
interesting class project if every year every classroom had its own book. Students year after year could look at those. Again, the continuity and the development of those writing skills, which leads to a well-rounded engineer or computer specialist or whatever in this
Right.
day and age.
Right.
Well, any other things that are going on at Immaculate Heart of Mary, in addition to the whole language literature curriculum that you think the viewers might be interested in? Are there new ways of teaching math?
Definitely. We are into that now too. Using the manipulatives and just a different approach to math.
Is it hard for educators who've been in the profession for a while to adjust your teaching methods or even your way of thinking to
Oh, sure.
accept these new kinds of ideas?
It can be, but I think it's so important, the changes that we're seeing. For example, yesterday in math, we just started with a new manipulative, which is the Cuisenaire rods, and it's kind of learning, using them to learn fractions. And my class was so quiet, I could not believe it. They were so into their own thing that I think it's just such a good learning tool to have things like that we didn't have when we went to school.
As far as problem solving, it's just wonderful.
And it's a different way of teaching the basics that we're also concerned about.
And they were
because
so excited about it.
And could understand it, you know, not just the rote memorization.
sounds definitely better. And children learn in different methods too, don't you?
Right.
And you're reinforcing learning the more different ways a
Right.
subject is approached.
That's why this is helping, I think, a lot as far as the different ways children learn. We're all different, and we all learn different. And we try to meet the needs of all of them.
How do you teachers and librarians keep up with these new things? Do you have to continually update your skills through classes and things, math, learning how to use Cuisenaire rods?
Sure.
How do parents respond? When
Good.
I
the
think they
children
like it a
come
lot.
home
Yeah.
and are talking about something different.
In one of our, I guess at the beginning of school, at our parent meeting, we had a speaker on the math that had worked with some of the teachers at workshop and came and talked to the parents about it and explained exactly what the program was and how we were doing things and let them ask questions so they could have another better understanding of the new math.
I would think it would be exciting for them, especially when they see how their children are responding. Going to school is fun today.
Right, it is.
I was interested, again, the viewers will see this in a few minutes when they hear the students, but the one young man who talked about the incentive program that you have at school, and he had written a little poem about it. Do all the students work on gaining incentives during the year so that they can take a field trip at the end of the year?
Actually, right now it's just 5th and 6th grade, and it's kind of a month process where each week they get a little card with their name on it, and they try not to get something written. Like if they didn't have a math assignment done, it would go on their card. So they try to have very few things on their card, and if they make the quota, then they get to go to the incentive, which is usually a field trip. One time it was roller skating, ice skating, things like that. And that seems to be working. We don't have it perfected, but it is working.
And in 4th grade, I was in the 4th grade classroom last year, And for the last 2 years, they have tried what they call celebration, and it's on a weekly, done weekly, where they have an assignment sheet too. And then at the end of the week on Thursday night, they have to have it signed by the parents that all the assignments are done. It comes in on Friday. And then we just had a little celebration on Friday, and it was something different each week. So we really had to think. I mean, it was either from making milkshakes to doing something outside or a creative project. But we did something weekly, and they're doing it again this year. And that was fun.
Everybody needs something to look forward to, and I think adults sometimes think that students should study, that learning is its own reward, and we don't come to work without expecting a paycheck every 2 weeks. So
Right.
I think it certainly is. Sounds like great things are going on out of Immaculate Heart of Mary, and I appreciate very much you being with us today and for bringing the students. Let's take a look now at some of the students' projects and hear from these very articulate 5th graders.
And thank you for inviting us. Thank you,
Yes,
Gretchen.
we enjoyed it.
This is the book One Sun by Bruce McMillan, and it's a book of terse verse. And terse verse is a form of poetry that consists of 2 single-syllable rhyming words that make sense. For example, sand, hand. And our class did a book of terse verse, and we'll have Teresa Bauer and Ben Martinson read that for us.
This is the terse verse book that our 5th grade class made.
School Tool, a book of terse verse.
Flat hat.
Fat cat.
3 trees.
My fly.
Pink ink.
Payday.
Cookbook.
Whale tail.
Tall wall.
To view.
Green bean.
Blue shoe.
White sight.
Fly by.
Kite height.
Blow hole.
Brown town. Class task.
This is a book called Animalia by Graham Bass. It's a book of alliterations. Alliterations are sentences that most or all of the words start with the same letter. An example is, lazy lions lounging in the local library. Our class did a project with alliterations, and a few of the kids are going to show you some.
Repairman repaired Rogan's reel.
4 fuzzy, furry flamingos fishing for fish.
Pebbles proudly plopped into puddles. We read this book, Quick as a Cricket, by Audrey Wood. Quick as a Cricket is a book of similes. A simile is a sentence that compares two things like quick as a cricket and slow as a snail. A few people will share their own similes.
My necklace is as shiny as a still lake.
Anna's as boring as an English book.
A scoreboard is as shiny as a diamond.
The city is as colorful as a rainbow.
My glasses are as shiny as a mirror.
Spring is as beautiful as butterflies. This is a book called Kids Pick the Funniest Poems. It was put together by Bruce Lansky. We read this in our class because we thought it would be fun to see how we liked the poems. For example, Mother's Nerves. My mother said, if just once more I hear you slam that old screen door, I'll tear out my hair, I'll dive in the stove. I gave it a bang and in she dove. And we wrote some of our own poems and we'll be reading those.
I was building a paper airplane. I wasn't doing so well. It really was a pain. I smashed it against the wall. The sound rang inside my eardrums, much louder than a bell. Like I said before, I wasn't doing so well.
Fireworks. Fireworks, fireworks look like this. They fly in the sky and catch people's eye. You go to see them on the 4th of July. I've already said this, but I'll say it again. Fireworks, fireworks look like this. You lie in a blanket and look at the sky, or you can sit on your roof and say poof and they'll fly. Fireworks, fireworks look like this. I hope they catch your eye as they did mine.
I eat lizards. I eat lizards, I eat fish, I eat monkeys on a dish. I drink frog eyes, I drink pigs, I drink chickens in 3 swigs. I like liver, I like meat, I like cow tongues and lion's feet.
The movie. I spilt out my popcorn, I slipped my pop out loud, and then my little brother spit up all over the ground. The movie wasn't very good. The film strip broke, they ran out of Coke, no one understood. The movie got very boring. Then my dad started snoring. Outside the rain was pouring. The movie was very, very boring.
The name of my poem is No Incentive. Can't think of a thing, my head is beginning to ring. If I don't think of something, my incentive won't come till spring. If I can't think of a thing, I'll be sitting here till spring. Incentive is a reward for people that have their homework that is finished in time, and then they just get to go on a field trip.
We read some stories and poems out of the Big Book of Peace, which is a book of a bunch of different stories and poems from different authors that all have to do with peace. We wrote some stuff that says that what peace means to us, and we'll share that.
Peace is love with no fighting. Peace is friendship with no anger. Peace is playing with happiness.
Well, peace is having what you need and some things that you want, and that you got to keep working on peace because it's kind of hard to maintain, and that if you have peace in your own home, to not ignore the rest of the world.
What peace means to me is that one single person can realize that the gift of life is the most precious thing of all. And that's probably what peace means most to me. And I just wanted to say that our class baked bread called peace bread, and we invited the other class to have it in. And she said, and the reason we did it was because this lady who went to Russia, she said she had a very hard time communicating with the Russians, but she said when she sat down to the table that it was very easy to communicate because food is just like a worldwide thing.
Articulate, creative young people, possibly some future authors among them. Thank you, students from the 5th grade class at Immaculate Heart of Mary. And also thanks to Julie Hussey and Mary Margaret Montandon. Thanks to all of you for joining us on All About Kids. Please tune in again.
This has been a presentation of Hennepin County Library in conjunction with the Twin Cities Metropolitan Library Service Agency. We thank you for watching, and we hope you visit your public library often.